What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and today I am bringing you an absolute powerhouse Strand Hunter build. This is a elemental specific build that takes advantage of one of my favorite aspects that is available to Hunter that I wish was available to others. Withering Maelstrom is going to be making an appearance along with a couple of fan favorites as far as armors and the exotic weapon of choice. If you have been looking for a good Strand Hunter build that you can take into Nightfalls, a good Strand Hunter build that gives you a lot of allies that might be green all over the battlefield, this is the build for you. This build is a ton of fun, has excellent ability uptime, and of course, one of the best supers in the game. So if you do find anything helpful with this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a hunter who is out there struggling to create a good Strand build, this is a great option for them. It takes virtually no effort to do what you got to do, and it uses all of the abilities to your advantage. So this is going to be a fun one. I want to give a shout out to my members as well as my subscribers. I want to thank you guys for your support. That's what keeps me going in these videos. But I am going to get right down to business. Here we go. Strand Hunter for Heresy. Let's get it going. So for the class setup, we're going with the Threadrunner Hunter subclass. Silk Strike is still arguably one of the most powerful roaming supers in the game, especially for Hunter, and you're going to have a lot of fun using it and just watching your enemies blow up in front of you into shades of green. For abilities, I recommend the Marksman Dodge, so it reloads your weapon. The Jump doesn't matter, whichever you prefer. The Threaded Spike is going to be pivotal here. Throw a rope dart that bounces between targets, damaging and severing them. The dart will return to you once it's done, returning melee energy to you for each target hit. Press R1 just as the dart gets back to you to catch it and increase the amount of energy returned. Obviously, R1 is just for PlayStation users. It's going to be your melee button no matter what system you are on. And of course, with Sever, the target's connections to the world around them are cut and their outgoing damage is significantly reduced. Severed targets unwind into a tangle when defeated. Our main goal here is going to be to generate as many tangles as possible so as to get a Withering Maelstrom. Grapple Grenade is the one that I recommend. I love launching myself towards enemies and unleashing a melee. And when you unleash that melee, the target, it unravels. Unraveling rounds from your Strand weapon pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them. That's when you pick up an orb of power. And unraveled targets unwind into a tangle when defeated. Again, our goal is to grab as many tangles as possible. For aspects, number 1 on the list is Widow's Silk. You have an additional grenade charge. Your grappling hook creates a grapple tangle at the grapple point. That's going to be good for you as far as being able to move around the battlefield more easily. You can also substitute this out if you prefer for Ensnaring Slam to get a suspending detonation when you activate your class ability. Withering Maelstrom is the goal of this build. Destroying a tangle will weave a violent withering mass of strand fibers. The strand mass seeks out and damages targets, emitting unraveling projectiles when it defeats them. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to try to generate as many of these as possible. Whatever you don't generate, you hope to have unraveling rounds. This is going to basically fill your screen with just so many additional allies affecting enemies that you are trying to defeat. For aspects, Threat of Warding is number 1 on the list. Picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. -10 to Resilience, so you might have to spec into that a little bit. But either way, get the damage resistance. Next up, we have Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, weapon final blows create a tangle. There is a 10-second cooldown on this, but don't worry, that's not really going to affect you that much. Thread of Rebirth. Strand weapons. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a threadling. Again, just another green ally to help you along the way. Thread of Generation is the fourth and final fragment. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. I want to get my grenade back as fast as possible. You can also swap this out if you want with Thread of Evolution, but I want my grenade back more so because my melee at the end of the grapple is going to unravel a target, and of course unraveling targets, they unwind into tangles. For stat distribution, I'm going to recommend that you focus on resilience, discipline, and strength in that order. You're not too concerned with your class ability in this unless you do put on Ensnaring Slam, so you can have your mobility sitting right around a T4. If you're lucky, maybe a T6, but certainly above a T3. Your discipline, you want to try to get that at least at a T7, and your strength, you want to get that about the same. The intellect doesn't really matter. I could be at a T3. Roaming Supers got a buff not too long ago for ability regeneration by just dealing damage. And of course, any damage that you cause with basically anything is going to factor into that. I'm talking unraveling rounds, the withering maelstrom, tangles, really just anything that you do, the threaded spike. It doesn't really matter. It's going to give you your super back even faster. For weapons, Final Warning is what I recommend for this. You have other options, but let me just go through this for your kinetic slot. The intrinsic trait, all at once. Holding down the trigger marks targets within range and loads multiple bullets, which fire in a burst with increased stability on trigger release. Hitting a marked target with a fully charged burst will unravel them. Your key here is to get as many tangles as possible. So the ability to generate them on cue is going to be amazing for this build. Once you get the catalyst, hits against marked targets deal increased damage and have a chance to refund ammo to the magazine. All these things are going to coincide. You can hip fire or you can aim directly down sight. If you aim directly down sight, you'll get extra critical hit damage. If you hip fire, they will track to marked targets and deal increased body shot damage. So you win no matter how you fire this thing. Now, if you don't like the Final Warning and you still want to have a piercing sidearm, I highly recommend a Breachlight with Slice and Hatchling, or a Mikkel's Reverence with Elemental Capacitor and Hatchling. Basically anything that can give you splash damage, or possibly give you a threadling, or possibly help you get those tangles. These three options are going to be awesome. You can always run with an auto rifle if you feel like you're going to get enough from them, as well as the barrier piercing capabilities. This week's Nightfall has barriers in it, so you need to be able to pierce the shields of the barriers regardless. So that's why I recommend first and foremost using the sidearms, but for just general content, you can absolutely put on a Rufus's Fury with Demolitionist and Hatchling, or you could put on a Perpetualis with Zen Moment and Hatchling. Basically anything that helps you get additional splash damage. But I'm telling you, once you get used to the Final Warning and how it fires, it's probably going to be your go-to, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. So take it into a place where it's not extremely sweaty and just kind of get used to it, and then figure out your balance on how to maximize its return. Because I'm telling you, it's worth it. For the energy slot, I recommend putting on a fusion rifle. Void is one of the better options, although you could always put on Arc if you are going to be going into an activity that has an Arc Surge. You want to be able to stun unstoppable champions. VS Gravitic Arrest is an excellent option. You get Unrelenting and Chain Reaction as possible rolls, so you can have that ability to heal yourself as well if you're in the Nether Arena. Snorri is a good one as well with Reservoir Burst, and Likely Suspect from the Witch Queen campaign now is more powerful than before, since fusion rifles are now part of the artifact. For the heavy slot, I strongly recommend going with Commemoration, Retrofit Escapade, or Pro Memoria. The reason that you need a machine gun is so that you can stun overloads. With how we have it set up right now, you can stun barrier, unstoppable, and overloads. So being that complete player while also taking advantage of all things Strand and maining a Strand heavy weapon or Strand primary weapon is going to make you a more versatile player and also give you plenty of other options to dealing with enemies and also taking advantage of buffs from the artifact. For the helmet, spec into whatever general mod that you prefer. For this particular build, I recommend putting on 2 harmonic siphons. The reason that I recommend putting on 2 harmonic siphons is you're not going to be clearing a lot of adds with your void weapons, which is contrary to if you were making a void build, obviously. So get your harmonic siphons, get that extra powerful orb of power, and then tack on a heavy ammo finder on top of it. You're going to get increased drops on heavy ammo bricks because you are using an exotic weapon as your main ad clear. For the gauntlets, spec into whichever general armor mod that you prefer, but for this one, I strongly recommend putting heavy-handed on, impact induction, and a harmonic loader. The reason that I have harmonic loader on is because you want the increase in reload speed. You're going to be burning through ammo regularly. You will get some on return with the catalyst, but in the event that you run out of ammo, you can get back into the fight faster. The reason we have impact induction on is because we're not using our grenade to actually kill anything. We're using it to grapple towards enemies and unleash our melee, which will give us an orb of power. So if you play it right, essentially how this will work is you'll activate your grenade, you'll you'll grapple towards a group of enemies, unleash your melee, you'll get your orb of power to instantly spawn, and then before the orb of power even hits the ground, you absorb it and get some. You get unraveling rounds, you get, all of your buffs or all of your abilities back faster. So just keep that in mind. That's why the additional grenade charge, I think, is worth it. For the chest armor, you want 2 damage resistance mods, dealer's choice in which you want. Just base it on whatever activity you're running. Spec into whatever general armor mod that you need. In this instance, I took strength. And for the reserves, whether you are running arc or void or whatever, I recommend putting on a reserve mod to match your heavy weapon. Now, it would be silly to put on anything besides arc or void, so just make sure, because of how the artifact is, make sure you have your artifact modded accordingly if you do decide to go with arc over void. But I do strongly suggest doing void and just putting on the void reserves. For our exotic armor, we're going to be running with Frosties. Frosties is now almost more important now than it's ever been previously. Increased grenade, melee, and dodge regeneration while sprinting. Dodging increases your sprint speed. So essentially what you're going to be thinking about when you're equipping this is a couple of things. Number one, you want to have passive regeneration. If you're running in the Nether Arena, there's going to be instances where you are running from encounter to encounter. If you just defeated a boss and you're on your way to your next encounter, but you are going to encounter enemies along the way, or if you're running the expert version, you're going to have battles in between battles. Having your abilities cool down a little bit faster is going to help you be able to engage those enemies with a little bit more confidence and power as well. Also, don't forget to put on a recuperation mod. That's probably the number one thing I would recommend for this. Strand is not known for being able to give you a bunch of health back. So having recuperation on is probably something that you're going to want to have on anywhere, not just in the Nether Arena. And that is key because Strand is awesome, but the problem is that it doesn't give you any way to basically regenerate any health. If it wasn't for the artifact and what we have equipped, we wouldn't be getting any health back at all based on this build alone. I also recommend putting Innervation on, as well as Absolution. The general armor mods, make sure that you spec into whatever you need. Like I said, resilience is most important. For the cloak, whatever general armor mod you need, go ahead and put that on. Recovery is going to be at a premium here, so make sure you have Font of Restoration. Also, make sure you put on an Outreach, and then it's up to you what you want to put on at the end. You can put on another Outreach if you want, or you can also put on a Reaper. Every time that you use your class ability, your next weapon, Final Blow, spawns an Orb of Power, thereby triggering your Unraveling rounds, your Font of Restoration, getting some ability energy back, giving you some health back, All good things, but you really can't go wrong with either way. Speaking of the artifact, in the first column I have Unstoppable Fusion, Overload Machine Guns, and Piercing Sidearms. In the second column I've got Volatile Marksman, since I'm using a Void Heavy Weapon, as well as a Void Fusion Rifle. Unraveling Orbs is non-negotiable if you are running a Strand class. Picking up an Orb of Power or Tangle grants Strand weapons unraveling rounds. This is why it doesn't matter if you have Promemoria on or not, because you're going to be able to pierce barriers regardless, but you really, moreover than that, want to be able to stun overloads. Hold the Line. While surrounded, machine guns and glaives gain increased reload speed and stability. Final blows heal you. Yet another way you can heal yourself. Dielectric, this one is a gamble. Defeating arc debuff targets grants bolt charge. This is really only going to apply when you are matchmaking and someone else is running arc. If you defeat an arc enemy and you are not arc, you still get the bolt charge. Dreadful Finisher, defeating powerful combatants with your finisher spawns special ammo for you and your allies. Defeating subjugators, tormentors, or champions spawn more ammo. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I want special ammo more frequently. Blind Harvest, rapidly applying Volatile causes your next instance of void weapon damage to create a weakening burst. This is going to be in the event of maybe a boss room, or you kill one enemy and then you go back to the boss or a major or whatever. And then Horde Shuttle, damaging unraveled targets with this weapon occasionally spawns a threadling. So another way that you can get more green buddies on your screen. Last but not least, Heavy Ordnance Regeneration and Void Flux. I'm taking the Void Flux because I'm running a Void Heavy Weapon, and Heavy Ordnance Regeneration because I'm running a machine gun regardless. I want my grenade and melee energy to come back faster. So that is the build. You saw me take it through some more difficult content in the opening sequence, but I'm going to break it down here in the Altars of Sorrow for those who may be still trying to get used to the setup. So let's get on into it here. Alrighty, so I just spawned into Altars. You can see I'm already debuffing this target, and it looks like it gave me a threadling on this round. So here we go. I got my threadling, and now here we go, just basically going to town. My strand weapon is going to give me threadlings, unraveling rounds, virtually everything. Now, one of the things that you're not going to be known for in this build is just generating obscene amounts of orbs of power. It's not like other weapons or other classes where literally everything you do is going to spawn an orb of power. It's going to be more about the tick damage that you can join you in the heart of battle more than anything else. And as you can see, we've already got our super back, but again, we are mainly focused on, oh, I just airmailed my melee there. You're mainly focused on your ability to start the Withering Maelstrom and be able to just absolutely level the battlefield with green buddies and those things. So your gameplay style should be relatively aggressive, but also keep in mind that you don't need to do a whole lot. You don't even need to aim this weapon if you don't want to. So as you can see, I've got double Withering Maelstroms going. I'm not hurting for ability energy. I'm going to pop my super right now just because I'm thinking about it. And I know you guys saw it in the Nightfall already, but you still have amazing damage with this super. There's just something awesome about watching this super just absolutely wreck. I guess I'm just going to airmail all my abilities here when it comes to melee. But you can see right here, boom and boom. You can get double Withering Maelstroms at virtually any time. Any time that you can have Withering Maelstroms as well as unraveling rounds, as well as threadlings, you are going to be an absolute force to deal with. So even though this might not be the meta-ist of builds, it's still going to be a very powerful build. And, you know, obviously you saw me, I took it through a nightfall. It's still going to do a ton of damage. You're still going to be able to help all of your allies with your abilities. So it's still going to be viable, even if it's not going to be as flashy as, say, Arc or Void. You're still going to be able to see, just look at all the stuff that I'm generating. Here we go, another one. Whoops. So I've got 2 Withering Maelstroms. I've got nothing but green on the screen. I've got my super back. And again, I understand this is just general content, but you can use this in higher end content, and all of the added ability regeneration and the allies, the green allies, are going to add to your overall potency. So that is the build. Hopefully this helps somebody out there. If you find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a hunter who is in need of a great, you know, strand build, or just a strand lover who is looking for a really great build, feel free to send them my way or share this video with them. As always, I want to thank you guys for all of the positive vibes and the great feedback. I'm not slowing down anytime soon. I've got a lot more videos that I'm going to be coming out with, and you know, we still haven't even gotten to Act 2 yet, or Act 3, so there's going to be plenty of things that we're going to still be able to talk about here in the next couple of weeks. So until next time, I will see you guys later. Hope you guys have a good one. Take care.